Most women have a checklist of some sort that they use to guide their choices in a man. Now, as I've discovered over the years, a lot of those checklists are kind of silly because what you have on your checklist at 15 or 16 for, a little high school boyfriend is not what you should be looking for at 30 when you're looking for a husband and a father and a lifetime mate. But a lot of women did not get that instruction, and so they still have a very youthful and immature selection criteria in their head. So I've talked about that several different times, but today I'm going to respond to a comment that came in from one of the visitors to the Debsterism channel. It was her suggestion for a topic for Video a Day February, and I thought it was very interesting because it's something I have not talked about, and the concept is one that I think we really should kind of explore. So we're gonna do that. So she writes, I have friends desperate to get married to their wealthy, successful, but abusive boyfriend. Women with Ivy League degrees who care more about the ring than their future. Most women who are desperate disregard logic. The best hope is that they can avoid it before getting too deep. I have a request for this video series if you're accepting them. How to avoid the appeal of men who look great on paper but are still narcissistic assholes. Well, first let me say that there's two types of these men who are good on paper. There's the kind who is, you meet the guy and you kind of like him. I mean, he's okay. He meets all the criteria on your list. He went to the right school. He's the right age. He's the right height. He's the right race. He's got the right job. He's got the right looks. He's got he has his own car. He has the home. He has a degree. He's no kids. But there's something missing. There's no spark. There's no chemistry. All your conversations feel like they're forced. You might even find yourself doing most of the talking because he sits there kind of looking at you. Or when he does talk, he says something so random and stupid, you sit there looking at him like, what? What did you just say? What does that have to do with anything? I've had dates like that. It was like a nightmare. So these are the kind of guys who people will tell you that you should, especially if he likes you, that you should be with, that he would be a great husband and father. He has his stuff together. He's this, he's that. But as I caution you, the man that you marry needs to have it all. He needs to have it all. He needs to have all that stuff if that's what you're looking for. And you have to be physically attracted to him. You cannot give up one for the other. A lot of women do it though because they're tired of being single. And they feel like these guys, and this goes for the second group that I will be discussing in a minute too. Many women feel like if they have a man like this who meets this checklist and is considered like a quote, a catch, he's got the right stats, right? He's got the right facts going on behind him as far as, schooling, education, family, whatever is going on with him. A lot of women think that because their man is this thing, that it somehow elevates their status, because people look at the guy and they say, wow, he's really fabulous. He's great. He's this and that. She's with him. So that makes her great and fabulous and everything too. See, that's what they think. So once again, we circle back to the low self-esteem issue, but that's for another video. There's 28 days. I have so much to talk about. So this kind of thing though, you have no chemistry with this guy. And you find that out. These are the kind of marriages where you're miserable. You get married to him and it's all great. You have a fabulous wedding. Everybody's jealous of you. But when you go home, there's nothing about this guy that turns you on. There's nothing about him that makes you want to be physically close to him. He's like, when he reaches out for you, you cringe, or you move away, or you just steel yourself for what you feel are your, quote, wifely duties. But you have no real interest in him as a man, as a partner, as a romantic unit. He's just good on paper. He's a husband on paper that meets a certain checklist. And that is a miserable existence, ladies. I do not recommend that. Okay, now then we move on to the type number 2. So let's continue with part 2, the guys that I say are narcissistic. These guys may be considered abusive because their abuse can cover emotional abuse, mental abuse, sometimes physical abuse, financial abuse, spiritual abuse, and even sexual abuse. And a lot of times people think, well, because they're a certain profession, that they can't be abusive. They somehow want to associate abuse with, jailbirds and these quote mystical magical thugs and people of that, you know what I mean, kind of like the low caliber men, and nothing could be further from the truth. The narcissist can come in any form. Can be any ethnicity. They can be from any socioeconomic group. So it really makes no sense to have any kind of preconceived notions about what kind of guy is or is not abusive to a woman. What we want to talk about, though, is the women who will take it because they want to maintain a relationship with this guy who looks good on paper, who they feel like bolsters their self-esteem and their self-image because of who and what he is. I mean, think about it. It's much more prestigious if you travel in that circle to be the first lady, the wife of the pastor, than it is to be, just some woman who's married to a guy who works at Ford. You see what I mean? So if that's important to you, that kind of title, that kind of image is important to you, you're going to do everything you can to hang on to that. And that's where a lot of women get stuck and they end up in these abusive relationships with men that technically are good on paper. Now let's talk about some of the ways that a woman can be abused, and it's often very subtle. These guys, they feel like, well, I went to such and such a school, and I this and that, and I have my pick of women. You should be happy I chose you. I'm the shit, and you're just a regular old peon. I can replace you easily. This and that, and blah blah blah. Okay, that kind of stuff is considered verbal abuse because he's belittling you. He's telling you that you're nothing. That that he makes you what you are. They bully you. They blame you for stuff. They're really demanding, and you feel like you have to do it because he's such a good he's such a good catch. They order you around. They're critical. They're sarcastic. They undermine you at every opportunity, especially with your children in the household. They will interrupt you and block you and name call you, and the interrupting is horrible because you're talking. Like, say you're in a group and you're talking and you're explaining something or telling a story or whatever, they just start talking over you like you're nothing. And a lot of men do this, and even in professional settings they do it, and they don't. I'm not saying they're always conscious of it, but that's what they do, and it's because they think that what they have to say is, and what they believe and what they want is more important than what you believe, think, and want. So, consider the fact that, sometimes this will happen. People will get into discussions and occasionally these kind of things will happen, but you have to think about the fact that it happens a lot, and it happens, and he says it with some kind of nasty, snarky attitude when he says it. That's when you know that you have a narcissist and what he's saying to you constitutes verbal abuse. Now, these guys are often manipulators. They will try to influence you in a way so you don't really know that he's manipulating you. It's going to seem harmless. It may even seem complimentary, but inside you feel it. You know what's going on some kind of subconscious level, and you will feel hurt and like you're nothing, and you may even be very angry about it, but you can't really necessarily put your finger on why you're angry. It's very frustrating for women, but how they do that is so you say you made a decision. You want, I don't know, you're at an ice cream store and you decide that you want the Rocky Road or something. Oh, Rocky Road. he says with this doubtful voice. Wouldn't you rather have uh, something vanilla? It's much more classy. It's much more whatever. The favors. So then you start feeling like your choice of Rocky Road is juvenile and ghetto and low class and stupid. And so you acquiesce and you get the French vanilla that he recommended because you feel like, well, he's smarter than you. After all, he's a doctor, he's an attorney, he's this, so he must know. Please. I'm like, oh, you know what? Give me 2 scoops of Rocky Road. That would be me. But, a lot of women, they want to please because they have this guy who they feel like is elevating their status, right? They don't want to mess up. So whatever he wants, they try to bend over backwards to get. If he thinks that this is the way it should be done, then they'll do it. And that ties in with the writer's letter about the women being desperate to marry these guys. They don't even understand what kind of hell they get ready to put themselves in. Woo, this is going to be a hot mess. Okay, the emotional blackmail. Like if you do something like, okay, like say I did order the double scoop of Rocky Road, well then he's going to do something to punish me for that, like not speak to me or start saying something like, well, I really need a woman who listens to me, and you don't seem to want to do that. Okay, that's a veiled threat, and a lot of women that would worry them. They would feel like, well, God, it was just ice cream. You want to like throw the whole relationship out because I wanted some Rocky Road ice cream and you want me to have French vanilla. And that's what they do because see, you did something that he didn't want you to do, so now he's going to threaten you. That's like a warning for you to toe the line and do what he says that you should do, otherwise he's going to leave you. Okay, these guys, they're a trip. And like I said, you keep focusing on this list of what he is and how he makes you look out in the world and to the community, to your friends, to whatever, your peers at work, whatever, so you're focusing more on that than you are on how this man makes you feel and how this man treats you. Okay, so let's go on. Let's move on to another kind of way that and please understand, if these things I'm going over, these are not limited to these. The list is not limited to the ideas that I'm giving you. I'm just giving you some that are very common that I hear a lot and have come across a lot, both online and through my advice column over the years and in my personal life, because I've had some jerks that I've ran into and they quickly are dismissed though, because I don't play those games. We're not even going to put our toe on that line, and you are not going to do anything like that to me because I'm going to get rid of you. And believe me, we'll cuss you out before I do it. So, but that's different because I know what's going on. And a lot of young ladies, they don't. They're just so focused on the fact that, this is the guy that I've always wanted. And they're not looking at his behavior. They're looking at his social status. That's what, there's a difference. His social status versus his emotional connection to them. And I want you to think about how he treats you and how he makes you feel when you're with him or talking about him and things like that. So negative comparisons is another one. The standard issue thing. Well, my mother never did it this way, blah, blah, blah. But they also compare you negatively to other women that they may have dated or that they know, or even your own relatives, and definitely to himself. Well, I'm older than you. Well, I know, my degree is in blah, blah, blah. Well, I know more about this than you do, and I study this. So for whatever they're going to do, they're going to try to put you down and make it seem like you can't have a thought about something because, he knows more about it than you do. Withholding is another way that they punish you. You do something that they don't like, you say something they don't like, you do something that puts you on the outside of the box that he's trying to control, and he's going to withhold things like, he's not going to touch you, or he's not going to talk to you, or he's going to give you the short answers, or he's going to tell you that he told you something when he really didn't, to just make you feel crazy because now you missed the deadline, or you didn't pick somebody up that you were supposed to pick up, or you didn't show up somewhere you were supposed to be, and he was the one with the information. He never communicated it to you because he wanted you to make you look stupid in front of these other people, and like you're tacky and late and inconsiderate and all these kind of things. So they do, honey, they have so many little tricks, but see, they want to make themselves look good, but he'll do it that way, because then that makes him look even better to these people who thinks that he's, just such this wonderful person, and while making you look stupid to them, so that they say, wow, he's really with her. Why is he with her? Look how she acts. So y'all better know what you're doing when you get involved with these knuckleheads. Isolation is a standard abusive tactic. As long as you have people that you associate with, lots of friends and family that you're close to, long-term friends and things, anybody who could see what he is and how he is and pull your coat or provide support to you or help you, see that you need to be away from him, he's going to use every tool in the world to make sure that you're separated from those people as often as possible, and usually, preferably for him, permanently. He's going to use all kind of things to say that they're no good, that they hate him, that they really was looking at you funny, that they said this and that about you when they really didn't. But he does other kinds of things that mess with your head to make you think all these people are against you and that he's the only one in your corner, so you align yourself closer to him than with anyone else. They invade your privacy. These are people that demand, they want your passwords, right? I want to look at your phone. I want to go through your drawers. I want to go through your email accounts. They want to look through whatever. They just totally ignore any boundaries that you put up for time or privacy for yourself. You want to go somewhere with your friends, he want to insist that he's going to go with you. You want to sit in a room and just read a book by yourself, he's busting the room and starts talking or playing music or something like that. Anything that he can do to invade the space that you're trying to carve out for yourself that does not include him. And think of some examples of that, but that's a classic abusive tactic as well. They'll sabotage you. They'll sabotage the relationships you have with other people. They'll sabotage your dreams, by telling you that your dreams are stupid, unrealistic. He'll come up with some stuff why it's not going to work, to cause you to be doubtful about yourself and everything, because all that does is, once again, make him look like the big cheese and reinforces that image that you have of him as being this wonderful, person on the mountaintop that you just had to have because he looked so great on paper. Some of these guys are actually violent. Their violence is weird, though. I remember this case where a woman divorced a guy, and he bought the house right next to hers. Like she didn't want nothing to do with this fool. He buys the house right next door to her, and then starts putting up like these lights. He put all these lights up so that it would shine into her house all the time and disturb her rest and everything. She had to get like blackout. It was just what he do was crazy. And so it wasn't like he didn't like punch her or twist, but it was still a violent type of behavior because he wanted to hurt her by not being able to get rest, and by knowing that he was right next door watching her every move. It just totally messed with her, so she ended up having to sell her house and move away. But you see what I mean? It's like they just, anything that you do or say threatens his sense of being the best, of you being in awe of him, of you thinking that he's like the shiznit, then he's going to get highly upset, and he's going to do these type of things. And not necessarily, like I said, overt violence, but some will. They'll punch you, they'll twist your arm, slap you, throw you around, hurt your pets, break the windows on your car. I mean, all kind of stuff. These are just stupid. Okay, lying, of course, you know what that is. They're not going to take responsibility for nothing. It's going to always be your fault. Because, why? Because he's the best, remember? He's the one who meets all your stats. He's the one who everyone in your family thinks is so great. He's the one who has the right job, went to the right school, he's the right height, he looks the best. He doesn't have any kids, he has degrees up the yin yang. He's the dude, according to all these people. He's the dude that they all wish that they had. And he knows that. And he's going to take advantage of that at every opportunity. Another one that they do is objectify. And exploit you. Now, some of these dudes, like, okay, so say he's got all these degrees and whatnot, he's going to look for a woman who has more, and he's going to, because of the fact that he meets her checklist and he's this quality things, then she lets him in, and he uses that to his advantage to to take from her, to level up, because really in reality he's jealous of her. But he's not going to let her know that. He's just going to come in and start taking from her, and no concern for what she feels, no concern for what she needs. Just his object is to use her. But she's not necessarily noticing it because he meets this checklist. So the guy who's good on paper, I mean, that's a good starting point, because you definitely want to have a checklist to keep you from wasting time with knuckleheads. Please understand, I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is there comes a point where you have to balance what this guy represents socially with what he represents to you emotionally, and there better be some balance. You can't just sacrifice the social aspect of who and what he is for anything, because you'll end up depressed and miserable. And then there was one of my clients, oh my God, this guy, and he should have known, a very wealthy guy. And his wife, she didn't work, would come to the gym for her training sessions with diamond tennis bracelets and just diamond earrings and just decked out. She had a horse. I mean, they had a yacht. I mean, his kids went to the greatest schools and everything. The guy was, very successful in that way, but he didn't look like too much, and he was short. And so I wasn't really impressed with him, but that was her husband, so I left it alone. But one day I gave her, some new exercises, and I guess she went home and she was pretty sore. This husband comes to the gym the next day, stands on the opposite side of the floor from where I was working out with some other clients, and starts telling me not to work his wife out that hard because she was too sore to screw him the last night. That's what he said to me. That's what he said about her to everybody on that fitness floor. They all heard it. Now, since this guy was well known in the community, they all knew who he was talking about. How humiliating was that for his wife? Because she heard about it. I didn't tell her, but she heard about it. So by the time she came for her next session, she was very upset. Very, very upset. So what did he do? He totally demeaned her. And even though those were only words, that was a form of violence, because he was directing it to hurt her. He wanted to sabotage. He was basically sabotaging her desire to get in shape and lose weight with his desire to like his desire for fun at night was more important than her health. That's basically what he was saying. So his words to me were designed to sabotage what she was trying to do in favor of himself. So these are the kind of things I want you guys to think about. You got to balance it. Don't just focus on what a man represents. And you definitely don't want to marry him if there's no, in spite of all these wonderful things he is, great qualities he has, if you have no chemistry with this man, there's no spark, there's no desire for him, you cannot marry him. You should never do that to yourself. You'll be miserable. You'll be so unhappy, so lonely, and feeling so just like there's an emptiness in you. Because the partnership that you want to have, the joy that you want to have, the cuddles, the romance, the emotional and physical intimacy, just sitting on the couch, rubbing toes and watching a movie together, none of that will be there, because you won't want him to touch you. You won't even want to be too close to do, because you're not feeling him like that. Don't do that to yourself, okay? And the other type that looks good on paper, who uses that to his advantage to hurt you and control you, you really want to watch out for them. So, like I said, looking good on paper is a good start. You definitely want to have a guy who meets whatever criteria it is that you have, but make sure that he meets your other needs as well. You need to be happy with this man, not just settling for him because he is what everybody says that you should have. Okay? This is Deb Cooper from survivingdating.com. I'll be back tomorrow with another video in the Video a Day February series. Any suggestions that you may have, submit them to survivingdating@gmail.com, and I'll be sure to add it to my list. Thank you.